fluorescent lights hummed above as Anna Whittaker sat in the pre-op room, her fingers trembling as she signed the last page of the surgical consent form. It was supposed to be a simple laparoscopic procedure routine. Even Dr. Evan Lowe, with his gentle tone and confident smile, had assured her everything would go smoothly. Her husband kissed her forehead before being ushered away, and Anna, fighting off a gnawing unease in her stomach, whispered a silent prayer. What she didn't know was that deep within the hospital's scheduling system, a last-minute personnel shift meant an unfamiliar anesthesiologist would be handling her sedation, and one unchecked dosage would soon become the line between anesthesia and a nightmare. As they wheeled her into the sterile, cold operating room, Anna tried to relax, focusing on the rhythm of her breathing and the kind voice of the surgical nurse who patted her arm. A mask lowered over her face, and the hiss of gas began, but instead of slipping into the velvet dark of unconsciousness, Anna felt suspended, her mind drifting but not departing. She could hear muted voices, the clatter of tools, even laughter. Her limbs felt like stone, her eyes unable to flutter open. Somewhere between sleep and awareness, Anna realized the worst. She was awake, and they were about to cut her open. The first cut felt like fire, a searing, electric shock of pain that pulsed through her entire being. Inside, she screamed so loud she imagined the lights flickering, but no sound escaped her lips. Her body remained motionless, paralyzed by the muscle relaxants. Anna lay on the table, her awareness intact, her pain receptors screaming in horror. The surgical team chatted casually as Dr. Lowe guided the scalpel across her abdomen, commenting on the tissue. To them, everything was normal. To Anna, it was a living autopsy. Time fractured. Seconds became hours. Her only hope was that anyone would notice the twitch of a finger. But no one did. Trapped inside her body, Anna tried everything: willpower, prayer, rage. She fixated on small details to ground herself. The cold of the table, the sting of antiseptic, the ironic melody of the classical music playing in the background. Her mind started to split from the pain and fear, and in its place, hallucinations blurred with reality. She imagined her mother's voice whispering in her ear, imagined running through a field, imagined dying. But no death came, only the scalpel, the pressure, the tearing, and the knowledge that she was utterly alone. Eventually, her body gave in. The blood loss and trauma sent her into a protective shock. The world dimmed, and the pain receded to a numb ache somewhere in the back of her mind. Anna drifted in and out, catching fragments of conversation, blood pressure dropping. Almost done. Close her up! When she finally slipped into real unconsciousness, her last thought was not of survival, but of betrayal. How a place meant to heal her had become her tormentor. When Anna awoke in recovery, everything hurt. Her throat was raw, her chest heavy, and her abdomen bandaged. A nurse noticed her eyes open and smiled, checking her vitals and calling for Dr. Lowe. He appeared soon after, praising the operation's success. But Anna, still groggy, croaked out words that chilled the room. "I was awake." The smile faded from the doctor's face. "What do you mean?" he asked, more startled than concerned. She tried to explain, describing the conversations, the smells, the exact details of the operation, but they chalked it up to anesthesia-induced hallucination. "You couldn't have been," they told her gently. "You were fully sedated." Anna insisted. Day after day, she repeated her story, growing more frantic as no one believed her. The pain she endured was vivid, etched into her mind like a brand. But her concerns were met with polite dismissal. Her chart showed everything had been standard. Her vital signs were within range. No alarms had sounded. "Awareness during general anesthesia is extremely rare," they said, "and almost always painless." But Anna knew the truth, and the truth was agony. She began to question her own mind, her own sanity, until she remembered something strange. Before being wheeled into surgery, Anna had forgotten to turn off her phone. It had slid into the back pocket of her hospital gown and, through some miracle, hadn't been confiscated. With trembling hands, days later, she retrieved it from her belongings. Her heart pounded as she opened the voice memo app. She hadn't meant to record anything, but somehow, perhaps triggered accidentally, it had captured a 47-minute audio file. She pressed play. At first, only muffled sounds. Then, clearly, "Scalpel. Make the incision," and her own voice, faint, slurred, moaning in pain. She played the recording over and over, noting every second where her muffled cries were heard, the casual banter of the team, the rustle of tools, and then, unmistakably, the slurred words, "Help, stop." It was her, conscious, in pain. With renewed fury, Anna marched back into the hospital and demanded a meeting. This time, she didn't rely on memory. She had proof. She played the audio in front of Dr. Lowe, the nurse manager, and the hospital's risk officer. The room fell silent. Faces turned pale. No one spoke until the file ended. An internal review was launched immediately. The anesthesiologist, Dr. Felix Romero, was suspended pending investigation. It was discovered he had overridden standard protocol and adjusted Anna's dosage manually, trying to compensate for another patient's delayed reaction earlier that day. The records hadn't shown it, but the audio had. A quiet panic spread through the hospital's legal department. Anna was offered an apology and a non-disclosure agreement, with a generous settlement attached. But for Anna, money wasn't enough. Anna took her story to the press. First a local outlet, then national networks. Headlines read, "Patient claims she was awake during surgery. Public opinion split. Some called her brave. Others accused her of exaggerating." But the audio clip circulated widely, and experts weighed in. "This could happen to anyone," one anesthesiologist warned, "and it's far more common than reported." The hospital tried to downplay the story, but the damage was done. Other patients came forward, whispered stories of being half aware, of pain, of disbelief. The case became a rallying cry. Advocates demanded new protocols, including EEG monitoring to detect consciousness during anesthesia. Anna testified before a medical ethics board. She wasn't seeking vengeance. She was seeking validation and reform. "Pain isn't just a sensation," she said. "It's a memory that never fades, and being silenced afterward only deepens the wound." Her words resonated. Laws were proposed. Hospitals across the country quietly updated their sedation procedures. Years passed. The media storm faded. The settlement sat untouched in a trust. Anna moved out of the city, seeking peace. But the memory remained. Sometimes, in sleep, she'd wake up sweating, heart racing, convinced she was back on the table. Therapy helped. Writing helped more. She started speaking at medical schools, using her voice to ensure students never saw a patient as just another chart. In the lecture halls, she saw their eyes widen. Not in fear, but in understanding. There were others like her, she knew it. Patients without recordings, without proof, just pain brushed aside. She kept in touch with some, forming a quiet network of survivors. They supported one another, sharing resources and stories. "We are the ones who remember what should have been forgotten," one member wrote. And it was true. In a world built on blind trust in white coats and sterile rooms, Anna and those like her were reminders that sometimes, behind the professionalism, mistakes, unforgivable ones, still happened. Anna's story didn't end with revenge or justice. It ended with truth. And truth, like a scalpel, cuts deep. She'd once been voiceless on a cold metal table, a living prisoner in her own flesh. But now, every word she spoke carved a path for change. And somewhere, in some hospital, a young nurse hesitated before starting an IV, double-checked a chart, or asked the anesthesiologist one more question, all because of Anna. She wasn't just the woman who woke up during surgery. She was the reason someone else wouldn't have to. Never dismiss someone's pain just because it doesn't show up on a monitor. Silence doesn't mean safety. Subscribe to the White Coat Crimes for more shocking true stories, medical crimes, medical mysteries, and the dark side of healthcare you were never meant to see.